You're watching Drive with NAR, the Realtor to Realtor series powered by Realtor Magazine. Tune in as real estate professionals talk tools of the trade and share stories of inspiration. Get ready to step up your business. I'm your host, Marki Lemons Ryhal. The Realtor story is reaching more audiences than ever before, thanks to NAR's consumer advertising campaign, That's Who We Are. The ads portray the strong bond between the real estate agents who are realtors and their clients on TV, radio, and social media. So why does NAR even need a national ad campaign about the Realtor brand? And why does that matter to you and your business? I'm here with the creative minds behind NAR's national campaign, as well as the chair and vice chair of NAR's Consumer Communications Committee, which has helped shape the campaign's direction. Greg James is CEO of Havas Media Network North America, and Steve Zeroff is the Chief Strategy Officer at Uncommon Creative Studio, New York. Both agencies are behind the media and marketing strategies for NAR's campaign, and Nick Exposito and Mabel Guzman are the chair and vice chair of NAR's Consumer Communications Committee, which consults the campaign on its storytelling strategy. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me here at NAR NXT in Boston. So, to understand what makes NAR's consumer advertising campaign successful, let's talk about the advertising landscape. What makes a modern advertising campaign, and how do you measure its success, Steve?
Oh, great question. Thanks for having us here, Marki. It's exciting to have this conversation and be able to share what we've learned with so many folks. Advertising today, the landscape is incredibly cluttered and crowded. If you think of the average person on an average day, they will see depending on the data, between 4,000 and 10,000 commercial advertising messages. If you think about what you're seeing walking on the street, what's showing up on your phone and screens when you're watching television or other branded content, it is a bombardment. So a big part of the job, and maybe the first big job that we have to do, is break through, right? If people don't see or retain or remember whatever message we have, no matter how strategic or important, it's actually not effective. So we really think about using science as well as creativity to drive campaigns that are really effective. And that can be data science and looking at studies about what's worked over the years in our country and elsewhere, and also neuroscience, understanding how the brain works, right? So the first real tenet we have is attention. How do we break through those 10,000 messages a day and make sure that folks are paying attention to us? And one of the big ways that we can use to achieve that is emotion, right? The way the brain works is when you feel something, you're much more likely to remember and recall what you have just seen or heard. And feeling can be, emotion can be around joy, it can be controversy, it can be nostalgia, it can be laughter. Just like when we smell something, our brain will form a memory that can last. Emotion really has a very similar impact on us. So we strive to make work that when you see it, you feel something. If you feel nothing, it's probably dull and probably not effective.
No dull marketing for
No
us.
dull marketing.
The main goal of the consumer ad campaign is to not only support and raise awareness of the Realtor brand, but also to give a greater depth and meaning. Why is it important to support a brand, especially at a time when some of the strongest brands are beginning to disappear? And how is the Realtor brand beneficial to members? Greg?
It's a great question because we spend a lot of time studying this globally and for the Realtor brand, right? As an agency and as a business partner. So we think about brands in terms of their meaningfulness. So we do a lot of research with about 250,000 consumers around the world to understand what makes a brand meaningful. How does it functionally deliver for you? Where's the emotional resonance coming from, like Steve described? And kind of what's that benefit and how does it exist? And we do that research every year or so. In the last round of that research we've just done, we recognize brands are even more valuable today in many ways because people feel a little lost in the world, right? They often will say, I'm not necessarily happy with the direction that the country's going in. The way they actually make themselves feel better about that is taking agency, taking control. And brands help people do that. So when people are thinking about how can they control their lives, how do they make good choices for themselves, they lean on brands. And so the Realtor brand has a really important role to play. So it's really important that we get that awareness, emotional resonance, the understanding and attention through where and how we show up. To make that Realtor brand really resonant to people, because that Realtor brand is representing how Realtors are showing up for them every day, right? The brand is the embodiment of what they can expect from a Realtor when they guide them, first-time home buyer or otherwise, on the process, on the journey into home ownership.
Wow. Let's talk about the storytelling formula of the campaign. The ads depict not only everyday scenarios between agents and their clients, like virtual consultations and property showings, but also the data and expertise they bring to the transaction. What elements do you need in a campaign to tell a good story?
Nico?
I think it's important that truth be in every piece of the campaign. So what we do as the Consumer Communications Committee is we make sure that the partners that we're working with, they have accurate stories, experiences from our members, and then they turn that into the creative process and expand from there. So I think truth is the most important thing, which is what we try to bring to the media partners that we're working with.
Excellent, because we owe truth and honesty.
That's right.
I mean, in storytelling, let's face it, people want to hear a good story, right? And they can connect with someone when they talk about their lived experience. So when these ads come out, it's really based on truth, things that actually happened. And then moreover, emotion, so people can connect to it because it's really about what is happening to someone right now. They can relate to that. So that's why storytelling is always so important. And I think you, more than anybody else, knows that. So.
Love a good story. Why should the average NAR member care about the consumer ad campaign? And how does it help their business?
So I think when we're talking about the CAC, the consumer ad campaign, we're really talking about what the message is to the public, but also the members on that side. So when you're talking about your business, leveraging those assets from the CAC for your business is huge. And the messaging that's there translates directly to what you're doing on an everyday basis in your job. And you know, our job doesn't end at the end of a transaction. It's well beyond that. So I think the consumer ad campaign captures a lot of that, and we can leverage those assets in our everyday business.
Yeah, you know what I think about is all these individual brokers and agents spending all their money, right, on their own campaigns that they're doing at home. And some of them are spending thousands of dollars, right? So this consumer ad campaign and the assessment is $45. So think about that $45 and how it translates into all these other assets that really lift the brand at a global scale. I think that's pretty amazing. I think they are getting tremendous value just from that $45. I don't know any other campaign that I pay $45 for and I get a huge return like that.
Yeah,
so true.
Me either. The consumer ad campaign isn't the only way NAR is getting the Realtor story out to consumers. Right, Nick?
That's right. So there are several assets that our members can use in order to get the word out. So the consumer guide, where you can ask your selling agent, you know, questions on listing your home. If you're working with a buyer's agent, you can ask them questions on what to, you know, how the home buying process, so on and so forth. And then we also have Photify, which is leveraging assets through pictures that you can share on social media and so forth.
But there's more.
Really?
And there's more. Yeah. Okay. So there's also First Time Buyer, which is a program that really was a response to all these other real estate shows where our members felt concerned that they weren't really being elevated. Or basically, you know what? It was really a bad impression. And they were not showing what the reality is on the ground of what we do. So First Time Buyer was developed, and it's now 5th season will launch January 30th, 2025. It's highly successful, I want to say. It's had on Hulu on its launch, top 5 in lifestyle category, and organically it's in the top 50. But what's really on the NAR channel, it's now gotten over 3 million views, and it's increased from the previous season. So we're very excited about season 5 that's going to be coming out. So again, $45 and we're getting that. That's huge.
Wow.
Yes. Then the other thing is really essentially, other than First Time Buyer, we have Real Estate Today, which is a great radio program that gets 160,000 listeners a week. And the podcast gets 7,400 listeners a week as well. And it's like listeners in Singapore and Spain. It's really kind of crazy. So, and you can hear the podcast on Amazon, at Spotify, as well as Apple. So those are assets. And again, $45 and you're getting all this stuff.
That's a lot of bang for the buck.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
right.
So, what's next for the consumer advertising campaign?
It's a great question. We're doing a ton of research, a ton of work on that right now. One of the major things that we look at are how consumers are changing, right? We've got to meet them where they are. We have to understand their issues, their needs, their changing behaviors. And one of the major behavioral trends we're seeing in consumers, not just as they're on the real estate journey, but in their lives, is a move really deeply into do-it-yourself. If you think about all of us during lockdown, we became so self-sufficient. We baked bread that maybe we'd never done that before. We gardened, we fixed plumbing, right? We did our own yards, and that self-sufficiency has really extended and given folks a sense of confidence that they can do lots of things themselves. We've seen media behavior on folks on TikTok or how do I X. People are learning how to do lots of things in a digital environment. What we're seeing in our data is that especially first-time home buyers who've never been through this before, they may think they can do it on their own. Just like they can bake bread and grow tomatoes, maybe they can take this major undertaking on their own, and we need to help them understand that perhaps the expertise, the experience that we provide is going to really help them and maybe protect them from some first-time or rookie mistakes. So we're leaning into that insight and that consumer behavior to help them understand.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today to share the consumer advertising campaign with us and with our members. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for joining us at Drive with NAR, the Realtor to Realtor series. Tune in every month at magazine.realtor/drive or subscribe wherever you watch your podcast. Find more tips to boost your business at magazine.realtor.